Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I'm just going to start out. Thank you for the introduction. I'm so excited to be here. It's an honor and it's great to have all these people joining us today. And it's supposed to be more of a interactive session. So please feel free to unmute yourself as needed and speak up. I find knowledge and talking through some of this stuff helps us all become better leaders. So with that ado, I'll just kind of jump in and then I'm going to ask some questions and I'm going to take notes. I think, like I said, it's really more of a working session on how we can be our best selves at home, work, and in the community. So thank you. And let's get started. Okay, so just a little bit about me. I know Jessica gave the overview. This is just a nice picture of our team, and we have a well-rounded team and very diverse. In addition to being a manager in the RV industry, I am a wife and mother of 2 toddlers. I'm actually working from home today because both of my kids have hand, foot, and mouth. And nobody wants to babysit today because they don't want to bring that home to their family. So if you hear any background noise, I'm sorry about that. My husband and I don't yet have that virus, but it's our second go around at our household. So enough about that. In addition to that, I like to volunteer a lot and be active in the community. I found that helps myself in just in general and being a better person and understanding my strengths and weaknesses. So that's just a little bit about me. So I thought we'd just kind of start out kind of defining a question that I had when I started this. I was thinking about what if I had to, like, who would my one leader in the whole world, who would it be if I chose someone and why? And so I thought I'd kind of open that up for people to kind of think about that. I can answer the question first. When I think about it in a work environment and I think about it in the global environment. But after reading a few books on Mother Teresa, I kind of felt that was someone that I identified as a leader because of the strengths she had as a person, but all the weaknesses she overcame just within the church and letting her be a liaison overseas in the third world countries. She really had challenges to get there. And then you see what she did to be a leader, even though people might not have recognized her in the community as a leader at the time. I think reading about her journey really inspired me and her story. So that was kind of one of the people that I thought of. I thought I'd go around and ask anybody if they could identify a leader in their mind who they would think is a great leader and that represents the role very well.
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in, or like we said, we can jump into the chat.
I'll help out, as
yeah.
always. Hey, nice to see you, Elise. Thanks for doing this.
Hey.
I always go back, and that's a good one. Mother Teresa's great. I always go back to Joan of Arc or Susan B. Anthony, and some of those that busted those ceilings that, really stood out to me. And that's a really tough question because I think there's so many different areas and there's been so many great leaders through the history. So that's a good question.
Hi, Christina here. Mine is a little bit more modern day. While I agree with all of that, I think mine's a little more modern day. I read Michelle Obama's book recently. I listened to it. I don't have time to read. I'm a mother and a career woman as well. So I don't have time to read, but I did listen to the Audible driving to and from vacation. And being the first Black female first lady was huge, but then holding the standard, as women, we have to hold a standard higher than most of our peers anyway, much less the first lady and a minority. So I'm not even that political. I read it because I thought she was very poised and held herself to a higher standard, and I love that about her. So I'm going to go with Michelle Obama for that one.
Absolutely. There's no wrong answer to this. So, and everybody is the leader in their own right. Anybody else want to share some thoughts on ideas on a great leader?
I would. So, I'm going to probably pick someone a little closer to home. My mom is an amazing woman. Not only did she endure a lot of hardships in her life and raise 3 daughters by herself, all under the age of 3, by the way. We are 3 years apart. So any woman who does that to me is like amazing. But she just really like had some struggles, and to be able to watch her become the person that she is today, it just really helped me realize that, our leaders don't have to be perfect. If you can see their strength and their stick-to-itiveness and all of that, it's really someone that people look up to, can identify with. Leaders to me are those that you see yourself in them and you want to be them.
Yeah, this is a great segue. I'm gonna probably stop right here because when I said Mother Teresa, that's when I started this speech. But then when I came to the end of it, I came to my mom too. So that's why I wanted to open this conversation up with a great leader, because it goes back to the point anyone can be a great leader. So I started out in my head with Mother Teresa, and then I got through all these things and I went back and I was like, when I think about it, yeah, she's a great leader. She's wonderful, but she's not close to home. She's not leading me as a person. And I reflected back to my mother. And that's where the point was going with this conversation was there's a lot of great people out there that are famous, but what about people closer to home or people that are in our community and people that we work with? I want to kind of open that up. Does anybody want to share someone closer to home, a leader in their community, or someone that they might want to recognize internally? That's kind of where this was actually going. So if you had someone that maybe you want to recommend or speak up about, we can take that next few minutes and then we'll kind of dive into it.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Chantal Hirschberger, and I had a former boss in a different role who was a really great leader. She was very engaging. She made everyone feel special when you talked to her. She was always really engaged with what you were saying, but she also really empowered people to take the lead and go do things. And if you had an idea, it was never, oh, what a good idea, I'll run that up the ladder. It was, what a great idea, now take it and run with it, to make it happen. And I would credit a lot of who I am, in my career to her, because she was very empowering and supportive.
That's great. Yeah, those are, when we go into the next slide, we'll talk about the qualities of a leader. Does anybody else want to share? Okay. Well, if you decide you want to share along the way, we have plenty of opportunities to talk. Like I said, this is kind of for you guys to be engaged and learn a little bit more about this topic and kind of help be our best self. So feel free to engage all along. So let's go in the next one. Let's see, I'm just gonna move my screen here so I can kind of follow. And so it goes into what are the characteristics and qualities of a great leader. I think that is one of the things, like when we start defining the people that we're just talking about, what makes them a great leader. Several things came to mind as, they create an inspiring vision for the future. They motivate and inspire people to engage in the vision, manage and delivery of the vision, and coaches and builds a team to be effective and achieving that mission. I think that's kind of one of the things I kind of wanted to put together today. I wanted to see if we could put together a definition of a great leader and kind of what it means to you. So does anybody want to, I took down some notes while we've been talking, but engaging, empowerment, setting new standards. Anything else that comes to your mind that you want to kind of put together on the list here? Sorry, I'm taking notes too, because I wanted to kind of just draft kind of our thoughts.
Hey, Lisa, this is John T. I'm not sure. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, absolutely. I would throw an unusual characteristic onto the page. I call it humility. We sometimes don't think of that, but I think I've found and I've observed some of the best leaders, when humility comes forth, it opens everyone up around them, and it says to the people around them, first and foremost, I realize I'm not perfect. I don't like making mistakes, but I embrace my flaws and I'm willing to get better. And I think one of the most important things leaders do is humbly help us do continuous improvement.
No, that's a great point. No one's perfect, not even Mother Teresa. And when I read her book, you see the struggles that she has with her inner self, and that we all have in ourselves, in our leadership. I make mistakes all the time in my job, and you have to recognize that you have to apologize, or, figure out how you can be your best self, which we'll get into when we talk about our inner and outer qualities and leadership. Anybody else want to add to that?
Lisa, there's some great ones in the chat, like being fair, being a good mentor, being relatable, listens to understand.
This is Carrie Berghoff. I would also say approachable. Like, you don't want someone to be untouchable and that they're on a level that no one else can communicate with them.
Absolutely.
Hi, Lisa. It's Karen Barnett.
Hi.
Hi. One thing I would add maybe is courage or courageous, because I think sometimes as a leader, you have to, make some decisions or, lead through some tough times, and having that courage to keep moving forward and leading your team. Sometimes you have to really give yourself a pep talk to do it, but it's really important that you keep going sometimes.
Absolutely.
Hi, it's Stacey Robinson.
Hi.
Hi. I think to add to what Karen just said, or to build on, I think a effective leader creates an environment for their team where it's safe to take a risk. Because I think a lot of what we do is risk taking, and if we're not feeling safe enough to do it, then we're not moving forward.
Absolutely. Anyone else?
I just had one more to add. So assertive. And a lot of times we're looked at as aggressive because we're assertive, just because of our character buildup. So assertive is, if you're not an assertive leader, people don't follow you. So assertive.
Yeah. And that is a great point. I mean, to be assertive and to take risk, those are qualities of being a good leader. I mean, you can't be a leader if you don't take the risk and try something new. And obviously have the humility, if you fail, to get back up again. So those are great points, and continue to share if you'd like. I'm just kind of going to go along after that. Like, what does great leadership mean to you? We talk about these characteristics here. And basically I put on here, to me, leadership is the act of guiding a team or individual to achieve a certain goal. And you kind of have to have these skills that I'm going to talk about, inner and outer leadership. So I'm going to kind of go through those. And that, like I said, this can apply to anyone, yourself, your mother, your child. Sometimes I look at my daughter and she's a leader to me in some ways for trying new things that I wouldn't have had the guts to do at her age. Like, she wants to ride the bus by herself at 5, and she's doing that by herself. And I would have never done that as a kid. So there's all kinds of ways that you can be creative and be a leader. And sometimes we don't get recognized as a leader, but everyone can be a leader. If it just depends on the situation and what they're leading. So I'm kind of gonna go through that. Does anybody have any questions in the meantime or comments? Okay. So inner leadership, it's really talking about the internal self, and that's kind of where we go to humility. It's basically our awareness, values, and purpose. Understanding how you lead through your emotions, energy, and will, and how you use it ongoing. And leading yourself basically to your highest potential. I think that's kind of really what this comes down to, is being your best self. And how can we all have weaknesses, but how can we feel good about ourselves in certain ways that we can feel empowered to be a leader? And before you can really lead others, you got to learn to lead yourself. I think those are one of the things that you learn in growing up. It's just kind of finding yourself and your strengths and weaknesses. We all know what our internal strengths and weaknesses are, but harnessing those. One thing that comes to mind too, my dad always says your strengths are your weaknesses, or no, your weaknesses, basically your weaknesses are your strengths and your strengths are your weaknesses. Basically saying your weakness makes you get better because you know you're weak there, so you strive to make it a strength. For example, like I'm very organized, and that can be looked as a strength, but it's also my weakness. So using that and turning something in a negative into a positive, and some people have struggles like with reading. For example, my father has a difficult time reading, but he's challenged himself to become a better reader and learn through that. So it helps him in business. So I think those are kind of things that you look at and think through, and how you can make those negatives a positive for yourself. Same with me too. Everybody knows I have a lot of passion, and sometimes that turns into aggressive or anger. And that always gives me that drive to kind of move forward, as my weakness or where I'm not good pushes me forward. So, having integrity, a positive attitude, a personal vision of your own life. I think that's one of the things I'm learning myself still, is how can I be my best self, but yet, I'm not faking it. I want to be real and transparent. So I think those are the things that we learn about ourselves and how we make that at home. Being my best self at work doesn't always resonate with my best self at home. So I'm trying to improve that as well by taking, like, at night, I turn my phone on silent and things like that, where I can be a better mom at home or person at home. Being able to articulate a vision or a path, and creating priorities. Basically being true and respecting yourself is really part of that inner leadership that we all come to find. And we all fail at that too. We might feel like we're on a great roll, and then we have a setback and we go back to our weaknesses. So those are things just to keep an eye on. And it really goes back to the humility part, being relatable, courageous and assertive. Those are all inner self qualities as well. Any questions on inner leadership? Anything you want to add? Okay. Outer leadership is your external. So after you get a good understanding of yourself, your strengths and weaknesses, and maybe you just jot them down, then you start applying them outwardly, or externally. Like it's usually more about working with a team or a group of people, having a strategy and execution, and understand where you are and where you're headed, and your strengths, weaknesses, and implication of that, and managing risk. Organizing and promote ongoing change when you're leading a group, and the ability to adapt and evolve in changing environments. I think that's one of the things we said down here. Creates an environment to take a risk. That also means being adaptive, to change when things change. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything on my outer notes. Yeah, so those are kind of the inner and outer, and combining those together, I think really creates the best leaders that we talked about earlier. Michelle Obama, she has a great inner self, I think, based on how she's portrayed herself. I think that resonates very strong, that her family and her moral compass really leads into her outer leadership skills, and it very much shows in the public eye. I think she's done a great job with that. I think my mom, for example, has a great self-esteem. So I think that makes her a great leader on the outside. I didn't always have that good self-esteem. So I always looked at my mom and how she's been able to overcome challenges. And that's probably, Kelly, too, kind of what you've seen in your mother too, taking your best self and portraying it externally in the home, in the community, and at work and other places. So Anybody have anything else? Before I go on to the next slide? Okay, stop me at any time. Just gonna see if I can move this screen a little bit. So to be successful, you must combine both your inner and outer skills to connect, motivate, and inspire others. That's really was interesting to me because I never really thought of leadership breaking it down to inner and outer ways of yourself, best self. And so how can we practice implementing both our inner and outer skills? That was kind of something that I came up with in my mind, was like, well, now I know the qualities and what I want to be, but how can I practice that? And so for me, I put down some lists and we'll go through maybe your ideas, but at home, parenting, that's a tough one in general. You have to be a leader to your kids, being a parent. You know, that's something that I'm still learning, how to be my best self. It's not easy. And let me say, I have a lot of meltdowns too when my kids are screaming at me 24/7. Trying a new family activity. My husband and I have been trying to take our kids out, doing some new things like swimming, you know, trying new sports like soccer for my son and daughter. Another thing that we've practiced at home is hosting new people over at our house or meeting new people in the community. That's always tough, and you got to practice your best self there too. Coaching a team for your kids or for you know, a group of people. Starting a book club, that's always a good way to practice your inner and outer leadership skills, hosting that and doing these leadership roles that they might not seem big to you, but as we talked about, it was really big and impactful to someone else. You know, I can think of one of my old bosses or one of my old coaches that really inspired me. And we don't realize how much just those little things that we're doing really inspires other people just in the community and around our home. Volunteering is another way to practice your inner and outer leadership skills. Start a clothing drive or do something out of your comfort zone, like doing a soup kitchen or volunteering at church, maybe to pass out the booklets or give a speech or sing a song at church or in the community. Trying those things that maybe put you outside your comfort zone, like we talked about. Obviously, there's a lot of opportunities, I think, at work to do that. Take on a new job responsibility. Maybe introduce yourself to new coworkers or invite them out to lunch. That's always nerve-wracking for me when I don't know someone well, but it's really great to just ask someone to go to lunch and get to know them. And I think that's what the RVWA is for me as well. A place to meet ladies like you or people like you that we might not know each other, but we can have a great conversation and learn from each other. And then I realized how easy it is that we can help each other. And it's really just part of being a leader, trying new things. I'll stop right there. Does anybody have any want to add to like how we can practice or things that you've done that maybe you didn't realize were going to be more of a leadership opportunity, or ways that you felt empowered or empowered someone else through trying new things?
Hi, this is Natalie. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I do apologize as well. I'm working remotely. I had my 2 children are home sick as well. So if you hear any noises, I apologize.
Judgment here.
I had doctor's appointments, but anyways, so I think one of the things right now, especially, so I work at the Marine Division, and obviously we're starting to finally feel the same type of heat that the RV has been feeling. So we've had to, you know, cut down staff. And I think right now is a great opportunity for those of us who are able to still be working and to learn new departments and working with other people to help in these slower times. And so like something that I've been doing, so I purchased for the 3 Marine divisions. And one thing that I've been doing is trying to help with the sales coordinators, you know, learning more on the sales side so I can help them with doing data entry or anything that they need as a backup assistant, because I'm in the office, and if sales is out on trying to get sales or trying to get anything, I'm at least in the office and I want to be able to help. And so I definitely think like that's something that I've been trying to work on, is trying to be more available to help with building our companies while we're slow. And it gives you the opportunity to learn and understand better too, because there's so much between different departments. You never truly know what other departments are going through. And so it's nice to finally be able to be versatized in, you know, in my department, as well as learning the sales side or the customer service side, just to be able to help while we're kind of limping through these slower times.
No, that's a great point. One of the things I've done in my job is I tell people, copy me on any email you want me to be on so I can be up to speed. And they're like, oh, that's overwhelming, but I can decide what is important to read. But knowledge is power on a lot of things. Just having the knowledge or understanding of different things and how they operate helps you grow within your job. And not being afraid to try new things, like you're saying, maybe take on some coordinator responsibilities in the computer system that can help out, because you become more valuable with the skills that you learn that might not be in your job responsibilities. And yeah, you might not get paid for them, but they like oftentimes can help you later in life in your career. So I appreciate that. That's great. That's a great comment and feedback there.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. No, that's a great point. Thank you for adding that. So it kind of goes into this is kind of the longer part of it. How ready are you to lead? I think that's something we can just kind of look at and talk as we go through this. There's 5 best practices of effective leaders. The first one is challenge the process. Sometimes we learn at work things aren't really operating the way they should be, or nobody knows how to do it better, and everybody's afraid to speak up. I have that a lot at my company. So it's like, well, how can we do this better? And being a leader, I think sometimes is speaking up, even though it's uncomfortable and it might not always be the right thing, feels like the right thing to do, but it's always good to at least try to, you know, make awareness at your organization that things could be better. And that's a good step of taking leadership. Kind of as I learned about leadership, you know, leaders thrive on learning from adversity and difficult situations. Goes back to that humility point, John. It's basically using your failures and using it as a chance to learn and innovate. And also seeking out things that appear to work, but yet insist that they can improve. So it's going through and learning from, you know, things that don't go right. I have that every day at work. Something goes wrong, and then I'm like, well, we can do that better. And by learning from feedback from customers or from learning from other peers, what the problem is, we know we can do better, and implementing strategies to do that in the future. It could be little things, just like for us in manufacturing, it's like, oh, we used the wrong screw here. This one's better. It holds up properly longer with time, and it doesn't cause any issues. So just little things that can make a difference. Again, that can be applicable at home. Inspire and create a shared vision. Creating a shared vision that's uplifting. We talked about, someone mentioned, the lady, I can't remember who said, but your boss that was a leader and engaging, and she always made you feel special. That kind of really goes back to creating a vision and enables people to feel good about themselves. One of the things that I try to do at East to West is do kudos. We have little giveaways for our plant people that might not get face-to-face time with management, but when they do something special, we like to reward them. We did safety glasses, we did little East to West backpacks and hats and things like that. So just making people feel special and appreciated. So that, and also creating a vision is just sharing your values, interests, hopes, and dreams with other people. What you are today might not be what you envision for the future. So sharing that vision with others so they can see that this is the starting point, And this is the next steps we're going. I think as the RV industry slows down at this time, it's a great way for, especially at East to West, we're stopping and looking at ourselves and where we are and how we can be better. And those are just little changes that we're going to have to chip away over the next 6 months to a year, and then continue going forward. It's everyday everyday problems that you just have to keep chipping away at. We always have failures, but chip away at the negatives and make them into positives. It's as they say, I think in the RV industry, it's like having an elephant and you take one bite at a time. Those happen a lot. So enabling others to act is another five qualities of a leader. Trying to achieve results together, and fostering collaboration by promoting goals and trust between the team members. This also strengthens the information sharing. Like I said, knowledge is power, and it gives visibility to your team members. One thing that we do at East to West is every Tuesday we have a production meeting, but it's not just a production with the production team. We have the buying department, we have our general managers, we have our warranty department. We have a big group of people, sales people join that as well, just to create visibility of where we're at and how we can be better, and better processes that we might not see in our own segments. But when we come together and talk about it, it really creates more collaboration. And I think that's really helped us be a better team internally. And also gives people empowerment, like we talked about. Just because I'm in a management role doesn't mean my other team members aren't managers or leaders. They empower themselves within my company. And I think a lot of people feel comfortable speaking up in those meetings because they know that if it's important to them, it's important to me, and it's important that we can make change by knowing those things. So never feel, I don't know your work situation, but having the comfortability of feeling heard, and trying to be speak that your mind in a way that is an open environment where you don't feel maybe like you're not valued, trying to create that environment. And that goes into modeling the way. Being a leader is living the behavior you're asking your team to adopt. If you're asking your team to do something, you have to show that you are committed to it too. I put on there in Jessica's in my intro is I got my second bachelor's degree when the market turned in 2006 and I couldn't get a job. And I looked and I looked and I wasn't qualified compared to the other people. And so I started as a temporary receptionist, and that gave me humility, having to answer the phones, clean the toilets, pick up the dishes for product managers. That was really tough for me. I mean, coming out of school, I thought I had this degree and it was going to be so valuable, but I didn't realize I was going to have to do motherly tasks right out of college. So it really helped me be a mom because I was used to cleaning and picking up, but it showed me humility. And then I took that opportunity to show that I was great at the front desk and organized, to work my way up to project manager. And I kept asking in the day, I'd be like, instead of me, just sitting here doing the phones, can I learn how to do the accounting and try to do some of the accounting and oversee some of the accounts while I was working at the front desk, because I had a lot of time. And so after I got the office all cleaned up and nice and organized, I felt like I was more valuable than that. And that's how I worked my way really into a project manager. So taking an opportunity and making it something better. In my mind, it was a receptionist job, but I didn't look at myself negatively. I just said, hey, I'm going to show them that I'm qualified, that I can do this, and that they want to keep me. And so that's how I went from day one, where I didn't think I was going to get called back, to staying on long-term. And then encourage people, be passionate about what you're doing. I think that's one of my strengths and weaknesses. Sometimes I'm too passionate, where people are like, oh gosh, she's coming down on me so hard. But it's just because I'm so excited and I love what I'm doing, that it's like, I just want you to feel that this is something that we can change and work on together. So sometimes that can be a good thing and negative thing, but I hope it does create enthusiasm for us to, be successful. So I think I kind of touched base on all of those. I'm just trying to be cognizant of the time. Does anybody have things that they want to add to that?
Well, Lisa, I must really be humble because I still answer phones and clean the bathrooms and do all of that stuff.
Same here.
But one of the things that I love that you said, and I saw so many people make this mistake during the Great Recession, you took the job you could get. And there were so many people that stayed unemployed because they would not take the job they could get.
Mhm.
So, you know, good for you for having that level of humility and say, okay, I'm going to take what I can get once I'm here. I'm going to ask, can I get into accounting? I'm going to aspire. I actually had somebody today that he's a GM with us today. He started years ago as a service writer, which I was shocked as a service writer, you know, GM from another dealership, because that's the only thing that we had open. The day he started, he came in my office, pointed to the sales manager's office and said, that's the job I really want. Well, guess what job he ended up with pretty soon. It didn't take that long.
Yeah, I think that's really about getting inspired and getting in there. And, you know, I didn't even think I would want to be a project manager of a post editing house. Like that wasn't anything I went to school for, but I really got into it. Once I got, you know, I worked at the front desk for almost a year. And then she's like, well, I guess we can get someone and move you up. Of course, she wanted to keep my pay the same, but, yeah, so that's just something, it's a nice way to try something new. Again, it was trying something new out of my comfort zone, and, you know, having the, because I couldn't even get a job. So I had to go to a temp agency and get filled. And so I think that was really a great learning experience for me. And I would never trade that for the world, because I really found myself just having that job. So it was a great way for me to get out of my comfort zone and also get more self-esteem. So
I think,
does
yeah,
anybody?
you know, I have one thing, so I agree. So just learning different parts of a business and different things that you do, you become more valuable to the company because you can fit any role within that company. So you're very versatile, that you can move from one position to the other. You know, if someone's sick, you know, you can fill in there. So you become, you know, people recognize how valuable you become. And when layoffs and stuff comes along, they're like, oh, don't lay her off. She knows all these different jobs, you know, and it's just always nice to do that. And yes, I do to clean the toilets and answer phones still too. So I love that humbleness. And, you know, I won't make my employees do anything I'm not willing to do myself. And that's including cleaning the toilets. I will take my turn if, you know, budgets are cut and we don't have housekeeping right now because of the budget. So we all take turns, and I include myself in that list because I'm no better than them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I mean, it's just, you know, making yourself valuable. And some people think, oh, it's just a job. And yes, that is true. But, you know, right now with the environment, jobs are really important today, and you can't just go out and get another one. So it's a great point to make yourself valuable and trying new things again. And you never know, like what you might learn that you're good at that you never tried before. I think that's the fun part. Like I didn't know how much the software was so fun. And when I get in there and I can do all these reports because I took my time to learn it, it was really exciting that I didn't have to ask anyone for help. I can do it myself.
Hey, Lisa.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay. You go.
I think one of the things that as leaders we have to recognize is the need for self-care when we're carrying a lot of added responsibility or stress. We start to feel responsible for other people and their success or their failures. And in addition to that, the whole topic of resiliency, which ties in very well with self-care. I think we have to look at that as something that often gets overlooked.
No, that's a great point. John, did you have something? Oh, sorry.
No, I just wanted to say alongside of that, and then I'll let John, but I think not only self-care, but asking those around you, I do trainings twice a year with my team, and I always find a book that matters. So how full is your bucket, or how, the bucket books,
Oh, that one.
7 habits, that kind of thing. So Stacy, not just self-care, but you see that person next to you is struggling. Have you asked them yet what they're struggling with? Have you, are you filling their bucket? Every interaction is a deposit or a withdrawal. And are you depositing as much as you're withdrawing, or are they, that kind of thing? That's a big one around here. I try to enforce it regularly. Like, have you asked anybody today what they're struggling with, what you can help with? Because self-care is only as good as we are. And if somebody else helps us, then we're able to.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I think even just the simple act of checking in with your team to make sure that we're all still paddling in the same direction, because oftentimes we set ourselves up for a project, or we're working on an initiative and everybody's got their focal points, and we break away and we start working in silos, and all of a sudden, somebody is struggling and nobody knows it.
Yeah, Lisa, this is John again. I wanted to supplement something you said on the past slide about the importance of adversity and learning from it and inviting improvement from it. I can tell you in my career, the best improvements and growth and breakthroughs came out of diversity. And if something was broke, or there was a problem, or there was a macro effect like a recession or a supply chain challenge or a pandemic, it was the ability to have the team look at that, reevaluate. I think you used the phrase step back and come out stronger. I think that is absolutely crucial in leadership. And because adversity is everywhere. Things are going to break all the time. And it's being able to see it as, oh my gosh, this is a way to get better. Absolutely.
And as they say in the RV industry, something's bound to break once in a while. So
Yeah.
I think one point adding to that too is learning to step back. Stacy was talking about taking on all these roles, and then one of the things I made a mistake with in my career is that, like, when I had my second baby, I really didn't take a maternity leave because I thought I was so invested. But maybe about 6 months ago, I just really hit a burnout stage where I just had to step back. And that's where I implemented some new strategies of where yes, I can be a good leader, but am I being my best leader when I'm grumpy and tired, and showing my team that? So I started turning my phone off at 5 or 6 p.m. I'll just put on silent and try to be with my family. I think learning to recognize that sometimes as people in general, we overdo it. Either it's at home, at work, in our personal lives. Sometimes we need to have rest and relaxation. And that's something that hasn't been really taught in the United States. And something that I really miss from working with the European market is really taking that time for yourself and developing, Stacy, as you talked about, your best self. I'm still learning that, still struggling that, but on the weekends now, I try not to touch my work as much unless it's really urgent. And those are the things that we kind of learn along the way, and people could see I wasn't my best self anymore, and that's not good. So those are things that I try to implement as well. We only have about 13 minutes left. I kind of just wanted to bring everything together and kind of open it up for discussion. I think we talked about a lot of this, but how can we use these attributes to be better in the RV industry? Does anybody want to kind of jump in on that?
Empowering more people of diversity, not just ones that look like us and talk like us and walk like us.
I agree. It's a big struggle for the RV industry in general. I think that comes with the RVWA has been a really great liaison for that. And I think as I hope that we can implement RV institutes for kids out of high school so they can come do training or education to get more people coming to Elkhart to look for these jobs. Unfortunately, jobs with our hands these days have been, or trade jobs have been maybe frowned upon. I almost think people think getting higher education. I think, doing jobs with your hands is not a bad thing, and you can make really good money at it. and I'm a doer. So I really think trade school is really valuable, and I would love to see more of that in the industry as well. And those are things that by this group at the RVWA, we can work on together. I think that's one thing that is missing.
Yeah, I agree. RVWA is the best thing that's happened to the RV industry when it talks about inclusion and trying to bring other people into the industry, make our industry a welcoming and more diverse industry. Kudos to, you know, Susan and everybody at RVWA, because that has really put us forth quite a bit. Hey, Lisa, your point on trade schools, I get this sense, and perhaps it's just my own misconception, but I get the sense that COVID helped us. COVID perhaps changed the dynamic a little bit, that not everyone needs to have a white collar job. It's great to work with your hands and to get a trade school education rather than having this overwhelming burden of college debt hanging over you, you know, your whole life, and having that burden to pay off. So I don't know, perhaps I'm wrong, but it seems to me like trade schools are coming back in vogue a little bit.
That would be great. I think that's something we've really missed out. Like I have a business degree, but my trade school degree with fashion design, I use the sewing machine and the computer. I use those skills to get me to where I was today. And I think trade school in general is just such a great thing. Like I know people are always like, college is so good. I'm like, is it really, if you're not going to use those skills? Like a lot of people don't even use the skills they go to school with. And we really could use the trade industry to get stronger in the USA. As we know, we're, you know, with the issues with China and things like that, making it in the US sometimes is better, even though we pay a little bit more. It really empowers us as a country.
Okay, so I'm going to take the two of you along with me for my next 14 weeks of talking with school counselors and getting VOTEC back in high schools. The two of you are coming with me. How's that?
Oh, I would love that. It's so missing. It really, I don't know if you're doing Elkhart communities.
You know, that's my biggest endeavor right now that I'm working on for the RV industry. And as I say, our country and the next generation total in general. So
great.
I love this. Can I get a couple quotes from you?
Hey, Tracy, I'll be your wing woman anytime.
Hey, you guys, I'll take y'all. Come on.
I should hook you up with my mother. She's really into education and trade school and stuff too. So again, my leader friend that we keep referencing, and thank you, Kelly Mosier, for talking about your mom too. So, and maybe there's some ladies on this call that will take you up on the offer that have more insight to the school systems as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. That is about 60% of what I do right now is working with the high schools and VOTECs and just skilled trades. So helping to get more into the industry as you're talking about. But as I say,
great.
Even if I get a small percent, we need them in the country, right? So yes.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
It's you know, I've met some people from Pennsylvania recently, and they came from, you know, coal mining and the car industry. And it's like, man, we're missing, that's how I grew up with the RV industry, was like people that worked in the RV industry. It's like, but when you step outside this area, and I live in Chicago now, it's like, oh, that's interesting, you know? So it's like, it just isn't, it's a great career path. And I think there's a lot of great things that the production people do that, you know, people sometimes forget to acknowledge and appreciate. So next, I think we kind of talked about this, but kind of relating it back to RVWA, are there any specific challenges that women have in general to overcome being a leader at home or work in the community?
Is D all of the above an option? I don't know. So I manage a transportation company in Elkhart, Indiana, and we're nationwide. We've got 14 locations throughout the US, whatever. Elkhart, Indiana is by far the furthest behind in empowering women. When I started, there were 6 of us in the company, and we're, you know, close to 100 just for the transportation side, and that's not contractors or anything else. But my staff is 90% women. One of the characteristics that, you know, the assertive versus aggressive, but we have a bigger bandwidth, like we do, and people don't acknowledge that we're built that way. Men were built stronger in different ways, but we're built with a really big bandwidth. We have a very high endurance, and I think it's forgotten. I think it's missed in some regards. And so being that there's 90% women in this building, I often have men like, you know, the owner of Monteith was out here, Best One Tires. And he texted me after he left and he said, can we talk about your all women staff? And I went straight into attack mode in my head. And I was like, sure, what do you want to talk about? He said, no, I just think it's amazing. And I'm like, oh, okay, we can talk, you know. But I was really like, hold on, take a minute. Breathe, don't be assertive or don't be aggressive, Christina, be assertive, you know, anyway. But so part of that is, I mean, I have 20-year-old all the way through, I think my oldest is 67. And I think this newer generation is more into the trade. I think they're more happy to see that they don't need a degree or a scholarship or to get their degree, and they're not going to be in debt. They're more plugged in. I know they read a lot of headlines. They don't click on the ad or click on the page and actually look at it, but I think they are more inclined for that trade type of position. So yeah, we try to empower them. That's the big part of what we do here. And we just have a bigger bandwidth. I can't stress that enough. Our endurance, the amount of stuff we can consume and the amount of time we can spend on something tends to be stronger.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if I read it somewhere, but I think during COVID, more men were staying home with the kids than women were going back to work. I don't have the statistics on it, but that was interesting. And my husband and I actually thought about that too, but I was like, oh, what will I come home to?
Would I come home to a home? I like, what is still here?
Yeah. But I really think it says a lot. And like you said, me too. Sometimes people say, oh, a woman, like, oh, and I think it's starting to resonate with people. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And I think people realize the strengths of women and people in general. It's just, we as women maybe didn't come, like, my mother worked, but then she became a stay-at-home mom. And like, I think the older generations, the mindset is now evolving, which has been really, really great. And it'll be great for generations to come, because I think that it really starts back with, like, when we're talking about Joan of Arc or Susan B. Anthony, it really starts with those women's taking the first steps to get to where we are today. And we can really be thankful for those leaders that took those initial, challenges to give us our rights. You know, it wasn't that long that women couldn't have the right to vote. So we're really blessed to have these rights and utilize them.
So
I guess I have, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we have a question in the chat that says, how do you get the attention of the executive team to understand the cultural inequality in other areas of their business?
Ooh, that is a tough question. If you feel, in my estimation, I'll let maybe Debbie might have a good answer or someone else. But my initial thought is, you know, finding someone in management that you know and that you can talk to and go to lunch and explain that. That's a tough one if you don't have a connection with the team. And the presentation of that is definitely something to kind of consider, and maybe some of us can also chat out offline if that's something that you feel passionate about. But Debbie, do you have any? You've been in the RV industry for a very long time and owner.
Yeah, my philosophy is fairly simple, because I'm a believer that passion and excellence is the great neutralizer. If you are passionate and excellent, it doesn't matter what race you are, it doesn't matter what gender you are, you will rise. And if you don't rise in your own organization, other organizations will see that, and you can rise in their organization if the leaders of your organization are so blind. But you know, we're all running. There's this great question with some seminars where they say, raise your hand if you're self-employed, you know, and a few people raise their hand. And it's a trick question, because we are all self-employed. Every day, every one of us is running a company called You Incorporated or Me Incorporated. So if I were in an organization and I were concerned about the lack of diversity in the organization, you know, if my sister were having that conversation with me, I would tell my sister, you know what, don't worry about that right now. You're running You Incorporated. So with You Incorporated, you can overcome all of those barriers because the great neutralizer is if you have the passion, if you have the drive, if you're really good at what you do, then it takes care of all the rest. You're not going to have to worry about anything else. You know, there's this old story about the competition with the lumberjacks and chopping down the big tree. You guys have probably heard this one, right? And so you have this new, strong, super buff guy, and he's in competition with this older guy that's been doing it forever. And so who can chop down their tree fast? They say go, and the young guy just starts going and going and going. The older guy's sitting there and he's sharpening the saw. The younger guy looks over and says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Well, I'm sharpening my saw." And of course, who wins the competition? The guy with the sharp saw wins the competition. So that's what we always have to do. We always need to be sharpening our saw, running You Incorporated. Don't worry about whatever obstacles you have, because if you have the passion, the drive, and the excellence, you'll overcome all of that.
Yeah, that's great. And it goes back to your inner and outer self. You Incorporated is we only have ourself on this earth. So doing what you think is right in your heart is the best thing for you ever, you know. That's the only way you're going to get somewhere is advocating for yourself, because you only have yourself to advocate for, really.
Well, yes, and when you're doing You Incorporated, you know, part of building your own success is bringing other people up with you, because it's not sole endeavor. You need to take care of your tribe and your team and help all of those people along the way, and vice versa, they help you too. So, you know, it goes both ways. I'll tell you, one of the things that we talk about at the company all the time is people end up getting stressed out over things that are not within their control. And so we identify IMC in my control, or BMC beyond my control. If it's IMC, okay, we'll do something about it. And if it's BMC, move on, get it out of your brain, and replace that with the IMC things, the things that you can control.
Oh, that's great. I can use both of those, IMC, BMC. Thank you. I don't really have anything else, but I wanted to thank everybody and thank you for the opportunity. Oh, we're 1 minute over. Here's my contact information if you guys want to get a hold of me. And I appreciate the time and the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for hosting today. I think this was a great conversation, great discussions happening here. Thank you everybody for attending. Just a couple of updates with RVWA. If you have not bought your education symposium tickets for October, you are coming down to the wire as far as getting tickets and then getting your hotel rooms. So be sure to get your tickets as soon as possible. That's going to be October 11th through the 13th. It's in Chicago. You can go to rvwa.org, look at our events tab and the symposium. All the information is there on how to buy tickets. And then just to also remind you guys to watch emails and social media, because we will be announcing everything about our open house breakfast in the next probably 2 weeks. So we will be doing the open house breakfast inside this year. It's going to be at the Hall of Fame. So we are very excited to take all of our wonderful event inside to the Hall of Fame. So be looking for announcements on that. Thank you again, Lisa, for putting this together and having a great discussion. And thank you everybody for participating.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, guys. Nice seeing you guys. Bye-bye.